Hello guys. In principle, my name is Alexei. Yes, for you today I wanted to tell you a little bit about such a water lecture, how in general, in principle, you build an attitude to physical education, yes, that's it with children and how to develop them more correctly, yes, and in order to, as it were, choose a direction, refuse and move in it. Because now there are a lot of different directions, a lot of sports and it's constantly unclear where to get something. Warm up from here, power from here, speed from here, yes, and it has to dig a lot, that is, information. The first question, I'm doing this for you, is what is physical culture? Here are its main differences from sports and about the specialization that the child receives at this moment. That is, physical culture, it turns out everything that is aimed at improving and maintaining health, yes, the body with the help of its motor activity, that is, it is in ordinary life, and sport is more focused on results. Accordingly, if you want to play sports and want to give the child there, yes, then you should understand that health is like time there, well, that is, there will be no speech there. Yes, until some point he will pass the basic, when he is too small, then he comes to some age, all the coaches begin to demand results. And even more, the coach does not require a result, but requires more of the parent's result, because they want to go to competitions there, to see medals, well, that is, this is a constantly competitive spirit. And I know a lot, especially in sports gymnastics there, in artistic, there, in what other, acrobatics, all require results. And if the child has not won yet, he cries and so on. That is, here we are moving away from the fact that we do not prepare children for competitions and do not talk about competitions, that is, we do not have this competitive spirit. That is, there may be some kind of relay races, yes, all this is there, but it is precisely such competitions that they go somewhere there, win someone, cups and that's all we leave, because sport is a concrete result, and physical culture is like everything, in order to preserve his health on the contrary, because I am now studying with athletes here in Moscow, they were all athletes, then they went to a physical education institute, graduated from a physical education institute and came out and go as coaches themselves. That is, accordingly, they have been there for 18 years and have given sports, they have all been killed, they have gone for 5 years, they have unlearned and are going to kill others again. Well, that is, relatively speaking, to kill, right? That is, they understand perfectly well, their knees, backs, head, arms, legs, everything is broken there, broken, twisted. The girl's leg is there, she's there, they have a knee in one direction, that is, the foot is the other, and this is like her normal position, so few people understand here, because there is no alternative, that is, where to give the child, well, we are looking for the word sport. Up is always in the framework of sports here in clubs, that is, there is a lesson in FP and here and everything else is sports. That is, if we are already moving on to specialization, that is, if we give the child sports, this is specialization. We give it to get a specialty. It's like being a welder there, an electrician, a fitter there or someone else. That is, if you gave it to boxing, a boxer, that's it, he is a boxing specialist. Yes, he will take out up in some part there, in principle, all these types of martial arts will be given to him. But he is an expert, that is, in another situation he does not use his potential as he could use it. But he also has broken hands, most likely, dislocated fingers, his head is beaten off, that is, there are a lot of all sorts of stories there. Because now we are communicating with a functional coach, they are checking children, adults are being trained above sports achievements, well, sports are above achievements. There is a graph of all sports related to blows to the head and body, an MRI must be done there. That is, they watch MRI before all competitions, that is, if the MRI is normal, the child goes on. That is, on an MRI there, well, it's usually abnormal until some point, then everything, that is, he leaves. Accordingly, this specialization, it is necessary to leave it and the child should not feel like a specialist there. You dip him into athletics there, he starts watching everything on the internet about athletics, you dip him into swimming, he becomes a swimmer there. That is, he begins to look for this community, this circle of people, this is the style, as they know there, these football players, they become there, they dress differently there, they listen to music there, that's all. And then they start like this, you're an athlete there, I'm football players, a volleyball player there, well, it starts. Accordingly, in the future, as if it is not very comfortable. We went running, they say we don't want to run, and I say why don't you want to? He says we're swimmers, we're going to swim, we're not going to run. Well, that's it, as it were, and that's it, they don't want anything else. We try not to instill specialization in them, so that they are more or less like in general. Yes, let them swim, yes, but they are not swimmers, we do not call them, yes, swimmers. We run, but they are not athletes. The climbing wall is the best, yes, there are all sorts of gymnastic moments there. All this is as if in a common heap, so that there is no specific specialization. If he wants to become a gymnast there later, he will leave and become a gymnast there, it will be his choice. So we don't seem to limit it, because basically, by the way, about specialization, how do parents do? They wanted to become someone themselves, they couldn't, we call it the Mother of Children project, she loved a hockey player there, yes, and then gave the child to hockey. It's like it really happens and it doesn't matter to her, the child may not want to be a hockey player at all, yes, but he's small, how does he know who he wants to be? Mom said I'm going. He's waiting like I was waiting there for my 15th birthday in basketball and just running away from there faster. I don't want to deal with him anymore. Well, there are different nuances, that is, parents begin to give them away, that is, they insert some kind of their own concept there, and children are such a topic that it is necessary to choose it correctly there. If you even want to give sports away, we communicate there, it is necessary to select sports for the child, that is, for example, according to his physiological indicators, external indicators, a lot of a huge spectrum in general, so as not to kill his health at this moment. That is, if he is a muscular type, yes, then he should be given there, he should not be given there, there is an infinite amount to run there. He is still such a man back and forth, but if he is so dystemic, so fatter, yes, then of course there will be no marathon and this basketball player there, a volleyball player, a football player. That is, if it is necessary to give, then it is very hard to understand where we will break this potential of the child. Up we get a general physical training, we develop his functional ability, that is, the child does not focus only on a certain technique, if it's running there, it's one technique, if it's boxing, it's another technique, we give them functionality, because so that he can understand how to work with his body outside of these conditions, as it were, there is a treadmill, a ring, a swimming pool and so on. Just as if it is normal to own the body, functionally it has some possibilities. Up is more focused on rehabilitation. Now basically all the children are like this, they are kind of a little weak, there is a tendency to obesity, this is clear one story, yes, then to weakness, plus we feel sorry for them very much, there are no conditions there for normal development and as if the children are weaker slowly. Therefore, they need to be rehabilitated, both psychologically and physically. Physically, we rehabilitate with the help of AF, we just teach children to move there, for example, to walk there, run there, jump, swim there, I don't know, twist around themselves, by the way, make a bridge. This is a regular rehabilitation, you know, if you saw someone get injured there, he learns to walk again, yes, here's something else. Here is the same rehabilitation with children. There were children, so they get up lying down, and I tell him, let's spin around there, put your hands in the left idea, he just doesn't know how to do it, that is, he doesn't understand, he's 10 years old. Yes, 10 years just killed him, there, relatively speaking, him. He has degraded, he has been setting such a difficult task there for 10 years. Here, he thinks it's difficult. And he was doing judo there. And how did he practice judo? He came, the coach doesn't pay attention to him, he's like a mom, he says, he doesn't pay attention to the coach, mom removes him, the child needs a unique approach. And he's like, she's looking for these unique trainers, but it's like this will never happen and she takes him everywhere and doesn't come to anything. Accordingly, up is the rehabilitation of pure water and psychologically you communicate with them there all the time. You have to create an image of such a person, who they would like to become, well, at least there at some period. Guys should be watching you. Here I want to become such a man there, for example, there are habits, voice, movements there, even at some point they will already be in your development, yes, they're in the physical, but they will still look at you there, that's where you look, what you listen to, how you dress, come to them, how you talk to them, how the girls look at you. Therefore, this is also such an image, this is already such a psychological rehabilitation and you compare all these nuances there, usually gender, and so on. All the same and the weakest ones can be used for him, these are different things there, for example, to give someone some task and you know that he will do it, yes, or you can officially peek what he will do, yes, and you give him this task in front of everyone, he performs everything as it were, and he seems to be the only one who performs, well, that is, various such things. But it is in the process that you will begin to understand where you can somehow praise such a child. Yes, here, but we have to find the optimal load for the child. The optimal load for a child is about 40 minutes, well, 50 is the maximum he can do. He doesn't seem to get tired, like we are adults, yes, there, for example, we went to swing there and that's it, we have a soot body that doesn't work, that's it, we're kind of tired. He doesn't have that. It works a little differently for him, he gets tired of the central nervous system more. You just need to load your brain with complex exercises. Complicated means not that he has to get up there in a pistol, yes, but complicated there so that he simultaneously has to control 4 points of support there, yes, and perform some kind of task at the same time so that he can think, that is, he did not just give him a horizontal bar there, let's pull up there 10 times, yes. He pulls himself up 10 times, jumps off and that's it, and he can pull himself up more. And for example, he has to complete a task there, we hang there, for example, we climb a climbing wall there, yes, and we have to go there only on blue, yes, well, it's practically unrealistic, but let him try and he will think only there on blue, yes, these, that is, he needs tasks to put. That's when he starts to do the task, that's how I said, remember there, lying down with emphasis, he has to move his hands there in one direction, in the other. Easy physical work, but his brain gets tired. It is necessary to load the brain, as it were. The body is already loaded as if later, but we will talk about periods of body loading. And the optimal load turns out to be the one that he can perform and that he leaves here as if satisfied with this process, that is, as if he played a game in some kind of there, yes, climb up the hill, they play tag, blind man's buff, hide and seek, here they are, as it were, tired, but they in principle, we are satisfied. This is like an optimal load and he is kind of happy and wants to try it again. The The most ideal thing is subject activity, that is, interaction, yes, there with objects. The subject is a common activity, like a child, we see a small one, yes, he first lies there, touches something with his hands, then he kneels, then he sits down and begins to interact. We'll talk about that too. That is, it turns out that he begins to interact with this world and he should interact with it and he should be interested in trying something. And this is how search activity is turned on, yes, that is, if he has a subject activity and plus search activity, then he will be in this stream all the time, that is, to look for something to do, interact with objects, try himself in this, move from one place to another. Then there is, well, when you are an adult, you can already catch yourself there at this moment, you are studying something new, yes. You have this search activity, some new action, here you came there, yes, then there will be subject activity, you will study there, yes, this is the subject of crawling, climbing, feeling something there and then you get something, you have this class. And went. That is, he must constantly be in this stream, because if, for example, he is in the flow of an ordinary drainage, for example, he puts equipment to him, yes, they're in some kind of sport. There is already such activity, of course, there is not much search, they just tell him what to do and he hones it and he does it more not so that he can take advantage of it there, so that the coach there tells him well done. He realized that this was a good fellow. He will need it later, he expects more praise there from the coach, that here he is well done, he did so, but he does not understand there it was necessary to have a pen like that or a pen like that. Well, he did something right, he was praised and he will just repeat what praises him. Basically, there should be constant interesting training processes, that is, these are some kind of semi-playing forms all the time, then where they can show themselves, manifest themselves, and so on. Yes, here of course it is difficult to raise the question of how to build a training session, yes, that there was always a game, well, plus different ages also at different ages I did not react differently to it. Periods of development of a child up to 6 or 7 years old, he should not have been doing anything at all, except just studying the world around him there, that is, some kind of development, there are usually trainings there, well, in the format there at home, yes, there is no need for something supernatural there. Well, yes, swimming is clear there, yes, it can swim there, trampolines are clear there, climbing somewhere there, hiking in the mountains. This is kind of common in order to just be interesting to interact in this world. 6 or 7 years, but then it's already possible to give it away again, here's some kind of gymnastics, yes, here's a little bit so that it. Here is this body posture, the interaction there is difficult to coordinate, that is, the brain is already starting to turn on, and then it turns out you can already swim, and a climbing wall, that is, here again we leave specialization, it's like a hobby we introduce it everywhere, so he needs and is worth it. Well, it turns out there are such periods, there was a growth leap up to 7 years, yes, and he kind of grew up and they become clumsy. It's like he's grown in length, but he hasn't grown into a body yet. That is, it turns out there are some phases. The body first grows, stops, begins to get fat. He's starting out, he was thin, he became fat, that is, it turns out he can't get pumped up at the same time, so to speak, yes, and gain muscle mass, and grow at the same time. Everything, the body removes one thing. And accordingly, when we send him to a heavy sport, when he has to gain muscle mass and work with muscle mass, he does not grow. And we seem to often notice, yes, children really do not grow up, who is there, relatively speaking, in weightlifting since childhood, yes, it does not become low. The fact that the body chooses priority over itself. He performs such complex loads, heavy, he just makes him grow. Here, accordingly, he will not grow, but develop, roughly speaking, in muscle mass. It will not grow. All children can get fat several times, yes, he got fat again, we kind of think obesity, but not obesity yet, yes, we look further. He got fat by the age of 14, for example, yes, he will jump in height again until it turns out that this puberty period, this transition period, he will jump in height again and grow again. And it turns out he was fat, yes, we all thought he was fat, then hop and stretched out, yes, a child, and he's clumsy again. And clumsy because his body length has increased there, his head has become taller, yes, that is, the angle of view has changed. He has limbs of different lengths of steel, it all needs to be controlled, especially if he was as tall as I was, and this is generally a horror. That is, and we seem to be that child. You know, here we are, kind of clumsily. He always falls there and stumbles, it's easy to throw him off balance there. That is, it seems to be necessary to take into account that this is normal and he may seem to be doing everything cool with you now, and then he abruptly became somehow clumsy or strange or began to get fat, yes, abruptly. That is, it is impossible to force a child to lose weight. We talked about biochemistry with a teacher and parents who are starting to force diets there is still some kind of story, yes, it's kind of dangerous for a child to have these changes until a certain age, that is, your child is from 7 years old there to 18, he will change. For example, from 7 to 9 he changed once, from 10 to 12 he changed again, from 13 to 15 he changed again, and from 17 he is shorter, he is constantly new, you have constantly new children. At first he wanted one thing, and then he wanted another, and this group is generally the third. And you should understand that this is the difficulty of us. We have to work with different children every time and they are constantly new, that is, one, then another, then a third, and then when his hormones went at the age of 14, he is a transitional age, but he has a hormone, this testosterone in both girls and boys, but girls have it a little earlier I went and they begin to change. That's it. Here, as it were, you can already turn on strength training, where it can already be a little higher than it should be, yes, and it will be like normal for him, that is, it's already normal for him, he already wants it to try, yes, he needs it for the body. We're not bothering him here in any way. It just has to sort of go away by itself. He starts demanding. But up to this point, it cannot be required, because if we take a child, for example, here is a muscle fiber, you know there are fast, slow and so on, there are muscle types and so on. What's the point? At first, the body has almost all muscle fibers from birth, they are the same, right? Over time, they begin to transform, so to speak, differentiation occurs into different types of fibers, yes. Here I have one type of fiber, because I need to run as much as possible, so relatively speaking, I have one type to breathe, my metabolism goes through more, oxidation goes through more, then I can run there for a long time, yes, if it's low and muscular, yes, you have a fast the energy has to come out. Here he has given out the maximum energy, the whole body and he is saving it up again. Yes, that's why different body types and different people and different portage. Up to the age of 14, they are basically plus or minus all the same. All children are almost the same. There's a kind of smart guy there, but they're all the same. And then there was a transformation in a different type of people, which he will leave more. Accordingly, at this moment and these loads of a different nature, yes, and they will show him where it is best for him. And then we kind of just help him decide on his choice, yes, that is, if he feels that it's not enough for him to pull up on the rings, yes, we are even more there for him, but this is it. And I would never have been able to pull myself up on them, I would have started to move away, I would not have been interested in it, I would have gone to a different load there. But it's kind of necessary to cut it off and then try to compensate for it all with the help of the training process. We can change the child in different ways. We can make him, as it were, stronger, more resilient, but only in the frame of how much genetics has given him, yes. It's kind of hard to understand. We can strengthen the child, yes, in the direction in which he needs and even, as it were, change his type of muscle fiber there from the intermediate one, but as soon as he stops training in this format, he rolls back to the original settings. Everything happens very quickly. Here, respectively, it's a little about periods. You have to understand, remember the most important thing is a permanent new child, that's a different format. Here are some books on this subject you can read there, get acquainted with these periods and what you do each period, I will tell you later. The next, most basic thing is the levels of construction of the Bernstein movement. I'll tell you quickly. There are several levels, 5. When we start moving, yes, we have several levels. The first level is the simplest, which we do not control at all, yes, he himself, the brain controls him himself. This is usually a tremor of the body, yes, the fact that we are frozen, it's cold here, yes, here's a tremor all over the body. It's more muscle tone, yes, that's the usual muscle tone. That's it. It's like a child is already, roughly speaking, he is born by a program and it seems to be accumulating experience independently of him. The second level is the coordination of movements. That is, this is, well, if we are so simple, here I am sitting, just starting to shake, this is one level, right, movement? If I start doing something already, yes, this is already the second level, but I don't seem to move from my place, that is, I just start moving there, bent and unbent. This is the second level. It is already the children who start a little older when they already begin to control. When he's small, he just moves, yes, and when he's a little older, he starts grabbing something, pulling. This is the second level of movement. He seems to be developing and already at a small age here. Accordingly, these are extensors, flexors, this collection of all, so to speak, practically automated movements. That is, any movement that you have brought to automatism, it goes to this level and does not stay there. That is, the brain then does not spend any resources on studying it, it just takes it out of storage and we start moving. The second level is also responsible for completely all your body sensations, that's how you are in this space, yes, that is, you are sitting, standing, yes, you are cold, hot, yes, hungry. These are all the sensations, this is all this level, I answer there. It's like you just need to understand how our body works. The third level has already started the movement of the shopping center. This turns out to be a spatial field, that is, displacement, right? This is already from point A, point B has moved there, that's all, this is another level. That is, we got up, so I was sitting here trace, moving my hands it's not clear what, these are some levels, got up and went, this is another. From here to there they are also divided. Just move your body, the level is the level, yes, the movement, that is, it is responsible for all the brain. It's like so that you understand, here's every new level of the brain, it subordinates everything below it, that is, it begins to become higher above them, and it subordinates them to itself. Here, respectively, moving just a body, throwing a sword at a target there, for example, well, not exactly, just throwing an object, these are already these levels. Just throw it there, move, get up, do something around yourself. That is, it's like a circle that's around me, that I can get here with the help of my body or move somewhere. The fourth level is OD. At this, and by the way, the previous level, this is the level when the accuracy of the child is developed as much as possible. Up to the age of 9, it forms accuracy, then everything, that is, as if everything that we were able to develop is accuracy until the age of 9, it will not develop further. It will be maintained, maybe it will get better, but accuracy is in terms of accuracy of movement, yes, that's where, it doesn't matter where to poke the object somewhere or draw it beautifully there and throw the object and accurately perform a beautiful movement, yes, it's all these here and throw the ball and something more. That is, everything, the accuracy of it is formed before the age of 9. The fourth level is D. This is a level where there is no accuracy anymore and then an action is obtained that changes the world around them, yes, that is, they change the world too. That is, you came to the body at the table, moved yourself, you need to write some information on the sheet. You take a pencil, take a sharpener, pull a pencil, everything has changed the world, that is, the word will appear. Do you understand? Yes, what? That is, the level when you make a movement meaningfully for something, for some reason, yes, for some reason, and you want to change some small world around you with this movement, action. This is already such a semantic level it turns out. We have the usual ones, then just the tones, then the movements, where the accuracy and now have already gone to the meanings. These are already modern levels of the brain. Here. Accordingly, this is the level for the left hemisphere, it is engaged in planning, that is, in advance. Here's a child, that's when we first just ran with them, then shouted, then played catch-up, and then we gave them a task. We start playing catch-up there backwards with one eye closed and it already turns on there, yes, that's it. Or we give him a task there, we need to get there with a ball there, that's it, he already has, as it were. Well, it's not so easy to get there with a ball, but exactly where we gave the meaning. This is the level with meaning he shares. For example, yes, and one is the manufacture of an object by one person. That is, you came, took a stick, made yourself an axe there. It's like your first one. The second is the production of a team of people, that is, you need to make, for example, a boat. Here you are building there or that's how much you have, you need to make a boat. This is also this level of movement. That is, at first you were all up to this level, they were in the interests of their own, then individually, and now collectively. This is a collective level, when we force children to train together, jointly performing some common task. Here's a boat to build. This level performs. And as far as we will break all the previous levels normally, yes, so he will then be able to interact in a team. And how are we going to teach him here to interact in a team, to do this, to build a house there, a hut, to make a boat there? Collective semantic movement. This is the most important thing. And there are, like, 3 more, this is already such a social level, not all people have it, because it is very, well, as if everyone has it, but not everyone has it developed. This is a very difficult level, when it was necessary to build a bridge there before, when you imagine 1,000 people interacting there as one single organism and he is building a bridge or a palace or some other very complex technical, such an engineering structure. Here are the people there, so that they can interact and understand where they are doing what, it's like a complex social structure. And for each of these levels, individually, collectively and over, so to speak, large, there are levels of movement, this is the 5th, but this is what I'm talking about, yes. And here again there is also D1, for example, in the individual and E1, D2, E2, well, that is, it's like the levels are already all connected with communications, social interactions, so to speak. This is the most basic thing that, in principle, it should be understood that the more difficult we set the task for the child and the more interesting it will be, yes, the higher his level of advancement will be. Well, everyone else. That is, as soon as he has learned something, I say it again, some kind of movement goes into the repository, that's all, he is no longer interested in it, he teaches, but it's easier for the brain to take old ones from the repository, so to speak, than to learn something new every time and forget these movements. Therefore, we seem to remember everything very easily. Well, the hormonal flow I told you a little higher, it turns out that the child should have a need to act, yes, well, that is, the hormonal flow is simple, you wanted to eat, you went hunting, you killed an animal, you ate, you are satisfied, that is, you realize that you did everything right, yes, that is, there was not a single unnecessary action. In theory, the same thing, we saw a female there, yes, we met her, we had some interaction with her, the act passed, so to speak, fusion, the hormonal flow was confirmed. Everyone, you are happy in the end. This should be constantly in children in the processes of their training development. Therefore, with children, we should sort of come up with some loopholes like this, yes, when we train with them, so that for them it was, well, confirmation of the right actions, that he did not just come there often jumped, yes, he climbed there, went somewhere for a long time. So today we walked up the mountain for 2 hours, so by the way, we entered here and they were all kind of whining, crying, well, that is, it's inconvenient to go there, it's raining there, it's slippery, their soles are all flat. They came, whined, went out on the mountain, everyone was happy there, that's cool, everyone started taking pictures. They confirmed, yes, that's how it would not be wasted time. Well, of course, you go down again already with the idea of getting lunch, yes, and you're already in a different way. That is, they are looking for actions every time to. Yes, the goal is to confirm your actions correctly. Accordingly, these are the neural connections that we develop in children. Yes, this is the most basic, well, also of the main ones. That is, these are levels of movement, each time we develop a more complex level of movement and we are neuroconnected. Neural connections, in what sense? We have to do the most strange, unusual things with children, as it would seem for them, but they are actually all ordinary, yes, people just don't do them now, they are more used to doing push-ups, squatting, pulling up, running, there's something like that, yes. Here you are crawling, climbing, turning over something, standing on one hand, balancing on a sword there, twirling a stick there. This is all for, so to speak, for the development of neural communication, because, by the way, after recently posted, that's how many neurons there are, 90 billion in my opinion. Well, it doesn't matter, we can. 90 billion. And 2/3 of them are responsible for the movement. That is, everything else is hearing, vision, this feeling, there are some other internal ones. All 2/3 of it, that is, it turns out 50 billion neurons are just movement. We are simply created out of movement and all our movements are, as it were, normal, natural. Therefore, the children and I crawl, climb, and it should be a little bit to enter into primacy, because primacy is easily perceived for a child. That is, here you showed him running like a frog there, yes there, well, not a frog there, like a dog, he just got up and ran, he doesn't care, yes. First of all, it was a small business then all the time, and now it can also be done in the game there, well, conditionally, well, we will continue to look at it. Naturally, it is easier to get through the winding, it turns out that we go deeper into the work of the brain. It's absolutely clear to the brain, everything is absolutely natural, plus or minus, yes, it's interesting, some kind of animal, so to speak, is moving and, as if through winding, we train with them. Communication irons are so that the child can feel his whole body in general in any space, that is, in any position. For example, he stands, he feels, lifts one leg there, takes it behind his back, you know, yes, he catches the balance there first, after a while he seems to be everything. That's all, every new movement that he studies is a new communication neuron and it turns out that we are creating so many of them, that is, we are constantly increasing their volume, but not just movement is superimposed on them, but all the other knowledge is just there from school, from the institute, there from the internet, from additional courses. That is, everything, we kind of create this. We will increase its storage, that's it, so to speak, at the expense of movement. And the more unique he begins to move, well, how unique, in terms of just freer, yes, the more he has the opportunity to write down something new knowledge in addition to just movement. That is, we create a physical, so to speak, area for him, yes, this is, relatively speaking, a repository, and there is already information coming from all over the world to this repository. And if he understands that, for example, he can calmly navigate in space, it doesn't matter to him what position he is in, yes, he can easily accept it, he becomes more open, sociable, that is, he is interested in the world just as he studies his body. And no matter how he becomes a clamped person, that is, he is not ashamed to look wrong in front of someone, that is, for him it is absolutely everything. These are all the communication neurons they are. What do I do, for example, when I'm an adult? Yes, I first learned to stand on a ball there, yes, he balanced on one ball, yes, he caught the balance there. Then it wasn't enough for me, I kind of got up on 2 balls, yes, then on 1, then on 2, then I tried to cover one class there, then the second. That is, you increase your difficulty level every time. And so you can increase the difficulty level. And then it turns out that I'm not just performing a mechanical action, I'm just standing, and when I close my eyes, it's impossible to just stand with my eyes closed and not turn on the brain, that is, the muscle gets up faster, because it needs to feel its power of space so much, especially a closed probation reception is this, that he begins to understand, as it were. That where to strain him and you begin to understand with your eyes closed, mostly more often with your eyes closed, how your body works, because before that you were just making noise, and then you started specifically there to strain your ankles and balance. Then you set him a task more and more difficult, then one leg, the second, the third, and for children it's all the same, only from the minimum level. First, the movement back and forth, left and right, diagonally, according to all their conditionally by the clock, yes, they're from 1 o'clock, they're from 12 to 12. That is, it should look in any direction, in any position. Toya, backwards, sideways, it doesn't matter to him, he must understand. He should throw standing on all 12 parts, he should understand, yes, well, where is he standing, we take a stone, yes, and throw it for an hour, for 2 there, for 3. That's it, he should sort of understand how to work with his body. And the more he has these opportunities for different movements, the more he then goes to any sport in general, as if in principle, it's not a problem. Yes, he can do this and that, and the 5th or 10th, that is, this is like a plus of the fact that we develop children through UFP, we don't give him specialization, we just pump him up with such, so to speak, complex exercises like that, well, every time we try to develop the brain. Here, accordingly, with children, for example, we do not take balances, we do not take them yet, well, there are 15, there are 16, 17 years, well, somewhere there you can already develop a balance in terms of there with swords. What am I doing, right? Yes, it is possible to stand on one leg there, but it is precisely such difficult ones where you can fall and break. Yes, it is better not to. Children are easy to fall, easy to break and all that. And these standing from balancing on swords is difficult, and it is necessary to work with the center of gravity, as it were. He hasn't learned how to use his body yet, that is, he can run and somehow pick up and fall, I don't know, a branch got there somewhere and he, you know, he still falls like this and he just fell apart. When of course you're doing hand-to-hand fighting there, they teach you there, you know, falls, there, picks, yes, but half just unwinds here. Accordingly, we just teach the child to control his body. We taught them how to manage their body, showed them how to manage it and help them manage their body. Accordingly, you can use balls, throw them at the target. But, for example, if we take a stick, yes, and start the child to twist the stick, yes, for example there, then we shift his center of gravity into his hand, and he is still not really ready for this, that is, he does not feel his center of gravity yet, yes, but he is already in the stick he's leaving. That is, it turns out he starts spinning like this, that is, he himself does not. He kind of puts everything on his hand, you know, right? That is, he still knows how to control himself, that is, you push him, he falls, and we give him a stick here, he will learn to twist from him, yes, but he will lose the center of gravity, because he goes into his hand. That is, we continue accordingly, we lengthen the continuation of his arm, and he still does not know how to work with this arm length, and we still stuck a stick in there, right? If some small object, yes, that's one thing, there's a pen there, a knife there, for example, yes, and something like that. But if there is already a stick, the stick is heavy there, for example, yes, it turns out that you need to stand on your feet correctly, carry weight, that is, these movements, centers, yes, there are different ones. And we can just hurt him with a stick ahead of time, if we put him on this stick, for some kind of fakirism, if we also try to balance him, yes, at a young age, in terms of unnatural balance, if it can be a snowboard, skis, skates, roller skates, this is one thing, yes, interaction, and if it is right specifically to transfer it to some other balance, it's like, this is, roughly speaking, how you just learn to walk constantly on roller skates, that is, you just can't walk, and you still have to skate. But he will learn to ride, he cannot walk, and then he will give up riding, but how to walk further? That is, well, some nuances need to be understood that here are the most unusual and complex exercises, such more, so to speak, that change the type of load, the center of gravity takes out, we do a little later. The bottom line is that we just teach and rehabilitate a child in the FP just to exist in this society, yes, in the environment. We taught him to simply interact with any object, in any direction, under any conditions, and so on. Then let him rest himself, if he wants to be there, how he goes there, who he wants to be. Children have very weak vessels at the beginning, especially in the head. That is, these are all sorts of suffocations, blows to the head, where you need to hold your breath, well, it's serious there. For example, there, well, it's not just there that it's clear that he has sneaked in, if we force the child to do, for example, diving there, yes, that's one thing. And if he's just sneaking in there, it's adequate for him in principle, then it's normal. For example, they forbade us, so we held military training there, yes, and I showed strangulation there, yes, for example. Well, this. And well, you can't show just in case, because you don't know how much he just has a problem in the body, and so the vessels are weak and the heart is weak. The heart of a 14-year-old person is like that of a 14-year-old, that there is a 10-year-old, it is almost the same. It only grows later, yes, it grows slowly, that's it. And accordingly, he is already healthy, and the heart is still small, well, if it is not hypertrophied there, for example. Here, accordingly, there are, as it were, nuances. Therefore, the vessels in the head, that is, if we start to train them there, they are so hard they're near the wall upside down, they're on the head, yes, it's right at all, well, not exactly like such a useful story. That is, somersaults, yes, it's picking, messing around, jumping, climbing there, turning upside down, yes, but it's these static ones, yes, well, that is, the vessel is thin, weak, and if so, then in a good way we should just. The children came, we drove them there, you know, to the medical center, took tests from them, checked all of them there with x-rays of all limbs, MRI checked everything there and were like, yeah, well, you can do it here, everything seems to be fine. And then the MRI does not show thin vessels and that's it. And he may have boxed there for 5 years, his head is all beaten off there and his vessels are weak. Therefore, with these up and down racks, we also slow down, we don't drive much. Here we have exercises, a cockroach, so to speak, there, as if upside down, but we try to avoid, that is, a more horizontal position and the head is slightly higher. Well, you can train a handstand there, but in terms of this it's so for general self-development that the children just tried ran there, like something like that, but he is never specifically upside down and static and still performs complex acrobatic movements there. This is the removal of the center of gravity, the inverted pose. This is if we just want to save and make a problem for ourselves. Of such options, I have everything in theory, you can practice a little.